Hi, Haagen-Dazs Ice Cream Parlor. Welcome back to Place Value Part 2. Now, if you remember from class last week, we started our place value in GoMath with lesson 1.2, and there was a reason for that. Okay, so I first introduced you to your place value chart. Now, you remember the place value chart from 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, but you might have forgotten over the years, so I reminded you of our place value chart. Then we hopped into lesson 1.2. We skipped lesson 1.1 because we were going to go back to that one. And the reason why we do that is because that's the way it makes the most sense in our brains. So lesson 1.2 started with the 3 different ways to write numbers, and this is all review. I'm not going to go into detail with the 3 different forms of writing numbers or the 3 different ways of writing numbers. We studied this in detail a lot in class, and if you need more help with the 3 different forms, then I can work with you during our 1:15 to 2 o'clock tutoring sessions. You just got to let me know, guys. So as a reminder, there's 3 different ways to write numbers. Standard form, you just write the digits. I should have started this way and went this way, because remember, we start on the right and we move to the left. Expanded form is I take the digit and then I expand it based on the value. So here's the number 5, so I start with the number 5. How many digits come, or excuse me, how many places are there after the number 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I added 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But again, I'm not going to get into too much detail because we studied this last week. And if you need help, please let me know, guys. Okay, finally, the 3rd way to write a number is in word form, and that's where we actually spell out the digits in words. So now we're going to hop backwards into lesson 1.1. In our book, we're moved forwards. This is where place value gets a little bit tricky, and this is not something that you learned in 4th grade. So what we're studying in this video is, as a number gets bigger, it increases 10 times. So anytime you see the word 10 times, we multiply 10. And as the number gets smaller, it decreases by 10. What that means is it divides by 10. Okay, so we also took notes on September 3rd that said, anytime we see the words times 10 in our GoMath, on our assessments, anytime we see those words times 10, that means that you multiply by the number 10. Okay. Anytime we see 1 over 10 or 1/10, that means that we divide the number 10. And this is the trickiest part for students, but guess what? It's not going to be hard for you. You guys are going to get the hang of it really quick. So the lesson that we're working on today is 1.1. So at this time, if you can get out your math books, your GoMath books, and you're going to turn to page 5, lesson 1.1. And we are, excuse me for my arm, we are going to review the idea of manipulatives. These little guys are manipulatives, and they help us to understand place value. So go ahead and pause your video right now so that you can go find your GoMath book and a writing tool. See you guys in a minute. Okay, let's keep going. So we're on page 5 in our GoMath. On page 5, you're going to see this chart. This is a place value chart. So technically, this column right here is our ones column. This column is our tens. This column is our hundreds, and I'm going to abbreviate just for time. And this column is our thousands. Okay, so let's start on the right. We're going to start with a small cube, and these little guys represent the number 1. Next, you'll see something called a long. So in place value, these manipulatives right here, again, excuse me for my arm, these green guys are called longs. So do you notice something that's similar between a small cube and a long? What is similar between these? Are they the same size? Kind of. At least the cube is the same size of a piece of the long. So if I took cubes and I lined them up on the long, how many cubes would I need to reach the bottom? 10. That's right. Okay, so 10 small cubes equal 1 long. Next in our place value charts, we have flats. These guys are called flats, and these are fun to work with. So this is one thing I miss about being in the classroom with you guys, is you being able to get your hands on math manipulatives. It really helps you with your understanding. These guys are called flats. How many small cubes are in one flat? 1, 2, 3, fast forward, 99, 100. So 100 cubes are in one flat. Now our last manipulative is this big guy right here. This is our thousands cube. It is called a large cube. We do not have a place value manipulative for 10,000 or 100,000. We would just use a whole bunch of large cubes. Okay, so as I am explaining how numbers increase times 10 and decrease by 10, I will be using our place value manipulatives a lot. Okay, so let's go ahead and test out this idea of increasing times 10 and decreasing times 10. If the video is starting to get a little bit too long for you, I would like you to pause the video, take a little brain break. Okay, about every 10 minutes you want to take a brain break and then come right back into the math video, because this is very important in order for us to move on. Okay, so let's start with our small cubes. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be building from the ones column to the tens column to the hundreds column to the thousands column using our place value manipulatives. Then we're going to go backwards. From the thousands, we're going to go back to the hundreds, back to the tens, and back to the ones. Okay, so let's see how this works. Let's start with 10 ones. So if you don't believe me, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so what happens if I have 1 and I multiply it times 10? So remember, multiplication means times. What is 1 times 10? Well, that's 10, of course. So that equals a long. So 10 of these guys, 10 times equals a long. And remember what I told you in the last video, you can use a sock as an eraser. It works very well. Okay, let's move all these guys to the side. Okay, now we have 110, also known as 10 ones. So let's keep building on him. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so right here we have 10 longs. It's also known as 10 tens. Or right here you have 100 ones. So there's many different ways that you can see the display in front of you. But let's prove it using an equation. So we have a 10 piece here, and we're multiplying it times 10 because we have 10 all together. So how many pieces, if we do, so 10 piece times 10 all together, how many pieces would we have? What is our value? 100, exactly. So 10 of these guys is equivalent to 100. These are equal. And again, remember, I'm using this keyword times. Okay, we're going to do one more example just to prove that it works. We're going to take our 100 and we're going to add 10 of him, because multiplication is the same thing as repeated addition. So I have 100 and I'm going to times it times 10 by adding 10 more pieces. 100 plus 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 100. Even though I don't have enough room on the screen, you saw me count them out. How many flats do I have? How many groups of 100 do I have? I have 10 groups of 100. So 100 times 10 gives me how many of these small cubes? 1,000. So you'll start to notice a pattern developing. Okay, so 10 of these guys equals 1,000 small cubes. These two are equivalent, and you can kind of see that they're equivalent. They're kind of pretty much the same size. But what's really important here is that you are understanding this times 10. A number times 10 increases the value of the number. Now, what I tried to show you guys on Thursday was the zeros trick, and only a few kiddos got it. But if I have the number 500 and I'm multiplying it 10 times, there's something called the zeros trick. So first, I just look at the actual digits, the 5 and the 1. What is 5 times 1? Well, yes, that equals 5, because anything times 1 equals that number. Now, this is the challenge. How many zeros are there? 1, 2, 3. So I just take those 3 zeros and I move them down here. So 500 times 10 is 5,000. That's the zeros trick. But we'll learn more about that in class because we have to keep moving on. Now we have to move backwards. So I have the number 1,000. I have the number 1,000, and my problem is asking me, what is 1/10 of 1,000? What is that asking you? Well, remember, 1/10 means to divide 10. To divide 10. So if I take 1,000 if I take my big thousands, my big cube, and I divide it by 10, remember that's the same thing as 1/10. Those are the same thing. If I take my 1,000 and I divide it by 10, okay, ready? Divide by 10. Bloop, 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 bloop. Nice sound effects, Mrs. Hagan. What do I end up with? Well, I end up with a 100 piece or a flat, okay, because I divided it by 10. So all these guys went away. Let's keep going. Hang in there, guys. We're almost done. Now, if it's starting to get a little bit confusing for you, you might want to pause the video right now. Take a deep breath and hop right back in. Okay, so I'm looking for 1/10 of 100. So what does 1/10 mean? It means to divide. So what's 100 divided by 10? Well, let's see. Let's take the number 100 and we're going to divide it by 10. And what do I end up with? Well, if I have 100 and I divide by 10, I'm left with 10. Okay, do you see what I'm doing? Now, what would happen if I divided this long by 10? We're running out of time, but yes, you're right. If I divided that long by 10 or 1/10, I would end up with the number 1. So, very important concept, 1/10 of a number. Ooh. Means divide by 10. You can see I'm in a hurry right now because this is turning into a very long video. So before I leave you and I let you guys go, there's this really cool program in GoMath and it's called iTools. And what iTools does is it lets you play around with this idea of place value manipulatives. Sorry about that, guys. I got a little bit sidetracked. So when you pull up iTools in GoMath and Think Central, you will probably see a screen that says, click to enable Adobe Flash Player with a gray puzzle piece. So I will click that puzzle piece. Sometimes you say it doesn't work, so double click it. In the corner, you will see a button that says Run Flash. You want to allow that. Once you do that, you will see a place value chart. Here's my ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. And I can start to multiply times 10 and divide times 10. Eight, 9, 10. I have 10 ones, and when I press regroup, come on, guy, move out of the way. It gives me 110. Okay, now I'm going to multiply times 10. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you lose count down here, it tells you how many 10s that you've placed into the box. I'm going to press regroup. And there they go. They made a flat. Okay, if I added 10 flats by pressing on the hundreds button, and I added 10 flats, after I pressed regroup, what would happen? Yes, it would give me 1,000. Okay, now we're going to move backwards. Instead of multiplying times 10, I am going to find 1/10 of the number. So I'm going to take one of those guys and I'm going to divide it by 10 by going backwards. Oh, there they are. There's my 10 flats or my 10 hundreds. Now I'm going to take these 10 100s and I'm going to divide them by 10. Let's go backwards. Oop, cool. How many 10s did it give me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now if I want to divide by 10 one more time, there's my 10 ones. Okay? All right, so I know that this was a very long video, much longer than part 1. Hang in there, kiddos. You guys are my sunshine. You are my reason. And I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow to learn some more math. If you would like to try page 5 by yourself, you don't need to do it tonight. It's not due till September 11th, which is this Friday, but it wants you to look at the long. The long is blank times as much as the small cube. Well, we know that it is 10 times. Okay, what about in part B? Look at the flat. The flat is blank of the large cube. Well, we just learned that the flat is 1/10 of the large cube because we decrease by tens and we increase by tens. Okay, Mrs. Hagan, I think that I've had enough. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Oh, you didn't even see that screen. This is what I was sharing with you. You were probably just staring at my face thinking, will she stop talking already? If you want to try page 5, what I was trying to explain is the long is 10 times as much as the small cube, and the flat is 1/10 of the large cube. This means multiply, times means multiply, 1/10 of means divide. All right, you guys. Now I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Don't worry, we got this. We got this together. Okay? See you later, my little ice cream cones. Bye-bye.